Hello students, welcome to English class. I'm your English teacher, Mr. Oza, and it's time to start a new unit. It is term 2, so welcome into the new term, welcome to the new unit. The new book that we are going to read this term is called The Handmaid's Tale. And as you can see, it has also been made into a Hulu original show, which is a really cool show. I highly recommend you all check this show out. The novel was written by a woman named Margaret Atwood. And so here is one of the original book covers, which, as you can see, they're advertising very heavily that it was made into a Hulu TV show in 2017. So the book, again, is called The Handmaid's Tale. So let's learn about who these handmaids are and what is their story. Imagine the future. We're moving into the future here in this book. Again, just like the last unit, we are going into the future. So, imagine that a group of Christian religious extremists have taken over the United States. And how did they do it? They committed a mass shooting in the halls of Congress. So all of the people that represent you in the government, your congressmen and women, they were shot in Washington, D.C., in the halls of Congress. And so this group of Christian religious extremists has taken over our country after a violent attack on your congressmen and women, and also with nuclear weapons as well. So what else is happening in the future? Let's imagine this, say, 20 years into the future. Pollution and this nuclear warfare has dramatically lowered birth rates. So that means that increasingly there are less and less healthy people, and it's becoming harder and harder to have children, right? So the birth rates are going so low that people are worried that, the population is going to decrease and decrease and decrease because nobody's having babies anymore. And babies that are being born stillborn or with birth defects. And this is the biggest problem in society. Birth rates are just going so low. It's disturbing. So, who are the handmaids? Remember, our book is called The Handmaid's Tale, or The Story of the Handmaids. So, who are the handmaids? Handmaids are healthy women who are captured by the government, and they are forced to have sex and forced to have children with the upper class members of society. All right? Pretty messed up. As you can see, this is our main character, one of the handmaids, and you can see, obviously, what she has to say about the future. So let me just repeat that one time to let it sink in, all right? It is quite disturbing, so hear me out. The handmaids are healthy women who have been captured by the government. They are forced to have sex with the upper class members of society and forced to have children with them. This new country is called the Republic of Gilead. All right, so the United States, again, was attacked by this group of Christian extremists. Like I said earlier, 4 nuclear bombs, 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as a mass shooting in Congress in Washington, D.C., right around here. All right, so this blue area, you can see, this is the area that is like Gilead territory, well-established Gilead territory. This is, the new country, which is called the Republic of Gilead. These red areas, those are kind of contested areas, areas where Gilead does not have a firm grip on, on the population. All right, and then everything in the middle here, there are a few different areas in the middle of the country, where war is still going on, where conflict is still going on, and there is no, definite, definite controller of the population. So this is the new country where the United States used to be. It is the Republic of Gilead. And what are some people trying to do? It's getting harder and harder, but people are trying to escape and go to other countries such as Canada to the north, Mexico to the south. So let's meet some important characters. Here are some of the handmaids. And as you can see, the handmaids are always dressed in red and they have these white hats that cover their faces when they go out into public. So our main character is this woman named Offred. Now, in the show, right, these images are all taken from the Hulu show that I mentioned earlier. She has the name June. Um, and Offred is the name given to her by her commander that she lives with. June is her real name, like the name that she was given at birth. And as you can see, she has a family. This is her husband, her daughter. She was taken away, right, kidnapped from her family because the government deemed her to be a healthy woman, right? She had a healthy child, and so she was kidnapped to become a handmaid. And so part of the book is will she ever see her husband again? Will she ever see her daughter again? So she is the protagonist, the main character, and she is the narrator. Moira is June's best friend, and both of them, again deemed to be healthy women capable of having children, are kidnapped and taken away from their family and friends to become handmaids. And one other person that we meet in the story, another handmaid whose name is Offglen, another handmaid and a friend of Fred. All right, and so I'll just quickly point out, like, when you become a handmaid in this book, your name, your identity is basically stripped away from you, and they give you a new name. So off Glen really means you are the property of Glen. So the commander that this character is forced into having sex with and forced to have a child for is named Glen. And so she has become the property of Glen. And so that's where the name of Glen comes from. Our main character, remember her name at birth was June. Her commander, the man that she is, again, forced to have sex with, forced to have a child for, his name is Fred. And so she is of Fred, or Offred. She is the property of Fred, or at least that's how these people in the story look at it. This is how the the people in power look at it. And so here are the Waterfords, right? This is the commander and the commander's wife, the two of the government leaders, the upper class members of society. Commander Fred Waterford is a political leader, a military leader here within the Republic of Gilead, right? And so, again, the main character, Offred, gets her name because she is the property of Fred Waterford. And so our main character, again, is forced into having sex with the commander, all right, and forced to have a child for him because, his wife is unable to have children. There are so many people, the vast majority of people are not healthy enough to have children of their own, which is why they have to kidnap these handmaids who are the healthy ones. And so the commander's wife is Serena Joy Waterford. And they have this driver, an assistant. His name is Nick. He's not exactly like part of the family, but Nick is the assistant who like helps out Commander Waterford, drives him around in a fancy Mercedes and is basically his right-hand man, does anything he can to help him. Becomes a pretty important figure later in the story, so keep your eyes out on Nick. A few other important characters to talk about. Of course, we have Luke, who is the husband of June in the pre-Gilead days. And June, obviously misses her husband very much, misses her daughter very much, and so she often remembers Luke and her daughter as well. And so, part of the interesting thing in the book is like, will she ever see him again? Will she ever see her daughter again? Aunt Lydia is like the trainer of the handmaids, the leader of the handmaids, and like the handmaids see her as this like this awful, super strict and super mean lady who is kind of training them for the life of being a handmaid, where they are quite literally raped by the commander, every month it is. And so Aunt Lydia is like very strict in teaching them. You can like see this kind of like frightened look on June's face over here. Very strict and like very scary to deal with. She's the one who like trains the handmaids and like teaches them what the life of a handmaid is like. And one other interesting character is Janine, who is also of Warren. Again, last time I'll say it, I'll just remind you, she is, the property, again, of course, according to these characters, the property of Warren. And so they actually just give her the name of Warren, just like the other characters we saw of Fred and of Glenn. But again, her real name is Janine. She is a particularly rebellious handmaid. So we'll see what happens when a handmaid tries to be really rebellious. Obviously, the system, to say the least, is pretty messed up. And so there are definitely rebellious handmaids. So we'll see what happens to the rebellious ones. Here are basically some themes to think about. What are the life lessons you can learn from reading this book and, of course, watching this show? Like, what is the author trying to teach you about? First of all, sexual abuse and rape. It is a problem in this book, a problem in the future. It is also a problem in our society today. Okay, so if we can read about it and learn about it in a fictional setting, as well as in a nonfiction setting, which we'll do later in the term, then perhaps learning about it, while you're teenagers, while you're in high school, will make the future a better place, right? If we learn about it now and we can talk about it in a safe place and just kind of do our best to like analyze it, like hopefully we can make our future, our society, the city of Lawrence, just like a safer place for everyone, and try to prevent sexual abuse from happening on college campuses and in any setting basically. Feminism, gender equality or inequality, I should say. The author is obviously trying to show you that there is a severe inequality when it comes to treatment of males and females. This kind of connects back to our last unit when we read 1984, Totalitarian Government, or the concept of totalitarianism. This is when the government has complete control of religion, economy, education, your family, and media, and more. So, do you think that the government should have control over all of these things, or no? So, totalitarian government is when the government has complete control over all of these things and more. I'd like to think that most people, most of the students watching this would think that totalitarian government is not the best idea. We saw how it worked out in the last unit in 1984, and it wasn't good. Last one here. What is the relationship between religion and government? Also known as the separation between church and state. Might have heard of this concept before. Should religion and the government be connected, or should they be completely separate? Two completely separate things, right? There are certain countries in this world that are like religious governments that are like where laws that affect you and your family, these laws are based on ideas from religion. Some people think that's a good idea. Some people think that religion and government should be completely separate. All right. In this book, right, the government, or this Republic of Gilead that has taken over the United States, they're a totalitarian government of Christian ideals. And so they force everybody to follow this religion and will kind of punish you otherwise if you do not follow those rules. So 4 main themes to think about as we read this book. So I hope you feel ready to go in this new unit, in this new term. Now it is time for you to complete the assignment on classwork number 31. It is the first assignment of the new term. The next step is going to be to watch a trailer for this show, The Handmaid's Tale. So again, I'm Mr. Oza. Thank you for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions. Have a great class.